are oppressed. We are exploited. We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
How great I am.
If you're some man, what the rock
You want first place, come play with me. You want second place, go somewhere else.
Let us sing forever. Let us play forever.
Wake your ass up. Awaken the beast inside.
Welcome back to episode 91, the realest podcast. I'm your co-host, Osama.
My name is Mohammed.
And we're What Are You Saying? It's actually been a month since we recorded. Our last episode came out December 18th, pretty much a month at this point by the time this episode comes out. We're so excited to be back. We have a lot of new guests coming, a lot of new conversations. We have a new podcast cover. We have a new intro, new outro, all that good stuff. Today, as opposed to usually in the beginning of the year, it's only me and Mohammed talking about whatever. But we actually have a guest today, a friend of mine who I used to work alongside with. Mark, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me.
I know. It's been a year too long. 'Cause I remember last time we had this conversation, or the first time we had this conversation was like almost a year ago. And I'm like, yeah, I want to get you on. Now you're finally on.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
It has been a minute. So you want to tell everybody like a brief what you do and like where to follow you, and we'll start from there.
Yeah, so I'm a recording artist. You can find me on everything. Mark Mendoza, Mdoza. YouTube, streaming services, all that good stuff.
Let's do it.
Welcome to the podcast. It's nice having you on. And I guess the first question I have for you is, what does it take to be an artist?
I think, personally for me, it's storytelling, like really good storytelling. You could have like amazing records. You could have like, it's art, so it's subjective and it's personal to every other artist out there. But yeah, just being a good storyteller, that's what I think an artist is.
Do you think, obviously, a lot of our conversations was about your music in the past, about you singing, but I don't think I've asked like the deeper questions, so I'm going to save them for today. Do you think that you're hearing some of your songs? I know your recent release was like Move.
Yeah.
What do you think your strongest skill set is? Do you think it would be storytelling? Like, do you basically talking about your emotions, talking about how you feel? Do you think your biggest strength is storytelling?
Yeah, I definitely think it's storytelling. The first EP that I put out, I literally wrote everything in like one day because it was just one big story, which was all set in high school, and like everything just came to me so fast. And when it comes to like writing singles or like one-offs, it definitely comes like it's a lot harder to write, if that makes sense. Like personally for me, I need everything to connect, and if it doesn't, then it's like it's not going to relate to me, and then it won't really relate to whoever's listening.
That was a beautiful answer. And as an artist, obviously you are putting your art there and it's outside in the universe. But before you become an artist, people either have the confidence or they have the fear. And if they have the fear, it's as if like, I want to do it. And then after a while, they might stop if they get a negative reaction, or they feel as if their music is not like hitting and stuff. Were you the type of artist that was on the fear side or confident before you came out? Talk to us about that coming out party. What was the process?
Oh man, it was long. It was a long process. I think it was like 5 years before I actually decided to put something out. So from like the fear side, I think it wasn't so much of like my voice isn't good enough, or like what I had to write, what I wanted to write wasn't good enough. It was more of just like, will it sound good? So during, I guess after high school, I took that 5 years to really work on like producing, mixing, recording and all that, because I'm pretty much doing it all on my own. And it really took me a long time to find my sound because I was bouncing back and forth. I was like, this doesn't sound good. This isn't what I want to put out. And so, I really had to really find myself in what I want to do in terms of my sound. And so it was fear for sure, because I wanted it to sound good. I wanted it to sound like what I had in my head, especially when I listened to it in the car or whatever. And once I put it out there, it was big relief on my shoulders, and so now it's more of just confident and trying to push the envelope and just evolve from there. Yeah.
Honestly, to add on to your point, I think the biggest thing is sometimes overcoming that fear, because like even me and Muhammad can relate when we first started out like doing podcasts. Like this is before 2020, like we first put our official episode on all streaming platforms. I'm talking about like pre-ways, and a lot of people do remember this, and you know who I'm talking about. And I believe, I think at some point it was just like we wanted things to be so perfect that we wouldn't allow things to start and come out because like, you obviously had with our old team, you had so many people on the team that different ideas, and it was just like one person says one idea, other person adds on to it, makes it better, other person adds on to it, we all add on to it. Next thing, we're not gonna get it out. And I think I was the voice of, like, I don't want to say I was the voice of reason, but I remember I would say back in the day, we have to let stuff get out because it's the only way you're going to learn as a creator, like by putting yourself out, making yourself vulnerable, and allowing people to see who you are. That's what a creator really is.
Yeah. That's what I really have to work on like this year. I'm always like, I've told you before, like on social media, I'm really quiet. I don't really post a lot, and like that's something I really have to do this year to really just let go, you know?
Is that your new goal going like for 2022 or even going forward? To like be more vulnerable?
Yeah, and like especially just not just social media, but just in life. I'm already a quiet guy, and so just trying to step out of that for sure.
I think it kind of works out. It's almost similar how The Weeknd came out. Like he was that quiet guy, he was hidden, but obviously I guess he resonated with his music. So I guess it definitely does work. But having social media now is so important. Again, I'll relate to you again. Like our podcast account on Instagram for the longest time was inconsistent. Now, like I'm posting 5 days a week, trying to post stories. Like I'm not even focusing on my actual account because I don't really care about my actual account. But I do believe you have, because you want to connect. A lot of people now, if you want to connect with a lot of younger ones, they're going to need that social media presence. They want to know who Mark Mendoza is, who Osama is, who Muhammad is. That's how they connect, unfortunately, these days, because you can easily go like door to door or have your own sweater, walk in Square One Mall and like say, yo, it's a sick sweater. What do you do? Oh, I'm a singer, right? But obviously you want to hit all areas of expertise. This way that then you know you'll hit all demographics.
Yeah, for sure. Just trying to branch out is really, that's the goal. That's the goal of this year.
Well, I have a question for you. So obviously like New Year's resolution, everybody has New Year's resolution. Not necessarily New Year's resolution, but what are your goals for 2022? Do you want to have collabs? Do you want to drop an EP, an album? Like, what do you have set for this year?
I have a bunch of other singles to release, surprisingly, because it takes a while for me to kind of write them since they're one-offs. But yeah, I have a ton of like unreleased stuff to just try and put out. I'm not like, when I look back at my other releases, it's always at the end of the year, and it's kind of like at a bad time. But yeah, just trying to get over that and just keep releasing things. Also work on the YouTube stuff, like all the covers that I used to do. I also have like a lot of those to release too. And yeah, just also trying to get some like photo shoot stuff done, because I don't really do that. But I have to, like, to really just push myself out there.
Yeah.
It's stuff I gotta do if I want to.
I just want to say, like, you're such a, like, I've heard your music before. Like, I remember you make me hear your songs like back in like when I first met you. And you're a talented guy, so I'm not sure. Like, I think the world's waiting to hear your voice, and obviously, I think a lot of people who know you definitely agree that you're a talented artist. And I guess which brings me back to my next question: what do you think is the hardest part? Singing, being an audio engineer, or producing, or do they have their own difficulty?
For me, it's producing. Like, audio engineering, I love it. Like, that's my second side hustle. I love it. It's like cooking. It's relaxing. It's fun. It's creative. Yeah, no, producing is the hardest thing. Especially when I'm listening to music, I'm like, this is easy. Like, I can definitely make something like that. And then when I sit down and do it, it's just not hitting the same. And then I get into this like self-doubt mode of, oh man, I need to, up my skills in piano or guitar or whatever it is to try and get there. But then, it takes time away from other things, and it's all about balance. And I think producing is I think I found out last year that it's something that I should probably try and collaborate more with, instead of me trying to push everything to 100, if that makes sense. Just trying to focus on what I can do like really well, and then just let someone else handle the things that that I'm not as strong at.
Yeah, I was about to say that, because like, especially when it comes to producing, you always want that mentorship, especially guidance, especially in the beginning when you're trying to cultivate and create your own sound. You might not understand or know that you're actually getting stagnant as far as your own sound. So it's always good to have that mentorship or just that second voice to overlook your producing skills, right? So I think a lot of self-producers who are great are known for that. They always had that in the beginning, right? Someone they could go to, kind of like a sensei or like a yoga type figure, to always help them out in the beginning. So obviously, as you get bigger and stuff, you're able to go back and forth, and it becomes more easier. One thing I wanted to ask you was, you talked about how when it comes to your songwriting, if the song doesn't connect, if it's not like a personal story, you just can't sing it. In the event that obviously you become a big singer, you have a big platform, big fan base, there might be a time where you don't really have the time to do as much songwriting as before. So someone might give you some material to sing over. Have you ever had that experience yet? And would that be a tough experience for you in the future?
Good question. The 3 singles that I put out before Move, I worked on them with producers in Quebec. And it was like a joint songwriting thing. And so I had like some input, and they obviously had like their own input with melodies and lyrics. And it actually turned out really well. I actually enjoyed like, singing the songs that we co-wrote. And I don't think it would be a struggle like in the future. I kind of think that I can like place myself inside that little story or that little chapter, and at the end of the day, I'll make it relate to me, if that makes sense. Like I can, some parts of like, oh, I'll write something about it. I'll write something for the song, and it'll be like, wow, okay, that happened to me, or that's really relatable to me. Okay, this is like then I'm set. Like as long as there's like a little piece of me in there, then I'm all good. If it's something that like someone wrote 100% and they want me to sing it, that's fine. Like I'll do it. Like it's not like a big deal.
I think that's important, like you said, that you add a little bit of yourself. So even if it's another person's material, your audience will still know that it's you. And I think that's really crucial. And there's a lot of things that people don't really do. And it doesn't even, and then that's in all arts, right? It doesn't have to be music. It could be in acting. It could be in like the sports world, sports analysts and stuff. Like if someone else gives you input and you're not able to add your own flavor that makes you unique, I think the audience can tell. So I think that's a beautiful point that you just said.
Yeah, for sure. Like listening to all the features that artists are in, they always have their own little flavor in there, which is something to really keep in mind and something that like a lot of people don't really take in.
Speaking of artists, right? Who would you say are your Mount Rushmore of R&B artists? Like who are the people you go look up to? It's like, I'm making a song. I'm not sure if you do this, but if you do, who do you go and listen to before you start making a song if you want to get influenced?
I think it's always been like the same.
Who are your top 5 artists?
Top 5. Oh, God. I'm the kind of person to listen to like the same one person for a month.
Who is that?
Obviously, okay. I know I've told you already, but like Bruno Mars is up there. He's got to be. I met him when I was young.
He's number 1.
He's number 1. He's.
Oh, you met him?
Yeah, I actually met him, and
we gotta ask you about. We gotta ask you about that. So Bruno Mars is number 1.
Bruno Mars is number 1. Tone Stith is number 2. He's crazy. He's really good. Travis Garland is up there too. Obviously Michael Jackson. I can't not put Michael Jackson there. That's 4. I'd probably say Chris Brown.
One more, buddy.
I'd probably say Chris Brown.
Chris Brown?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm like, those are like the 5 guys I'll probably listen to over and over again. I'll never get tired of. Yeah.
Do you think they have influenced the way you sound?
Yeah, definitely. Like their little intricacies in their runs or their little melodies and the way like the production goes. Yeah, no, they have a lot of influence over me, especially Bruno. I can't escape it. Like in high school, everyone would call me Bruno.
Tell us about Bruno and how you met him.
All right.
Tell us a story, man. I want to hear it.
I was in LA, and this was like, oh man, I think I was like 7 or 9 years old, and it was for my cousin's wedding. And so I woke up one morning and someone was singing on the couch. Yeah. I'm like, who the heck is singing? It's like 8 a.m. in the morning. I get up, I walk to the family room, and this guy is just sitting. He's not even standing. He's lying down on the sofa, literally singing, just like you wouldn't even think that he's lying down. It's that easy for him. I'm like, holy cow, this guy sounds great. And then my dad comes out and he's like, oh, what's your name? He was already Bruno at the time. I think he was like 27 years old. And my dad was like, oh man, you gotta go try out for American Idol. And he's like, I'm already too old for that. And he was like, okay, that's fine, but I'll give you $10 to sing. And he's like, yeah, sure. And so he was singing more and more. And my mom was like, you got to go sing with him. I'm like, I'm kind of shy. But yeah, my mom told him that I was a singer. And yeah, like the one thing he gave me, he literally told me just keep singing. And ever since then, I kind of just use that as a way to like motivate myself.
Was Bruno Mars at this point? Or at that point, sorry?
He was already Bruno, but it was like right before he blew up. I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But that's actually still sick. Like, let me say one thing. If you ever make a song with him, which I know you will, the backstory behind that is just insane. Like the fact that you met him at 7 years old, and I'm not sure if he'll remember it, but maybe he does. I have no idea. But the fact that you could share that story with him, it's like, hey, I want to share something with you. A lot of people have that. Like sometimes they meet someone within their industry, like, yo, I met you this many years ago and you were so kind to me. So I think that's an interesting story. Like the fact that you said you met one of your, I guess, heroes, mind you, someone who like allowed you to fall in love with music.
Yeah.
And for him to inspire and continuously inspire you is insane.
Yeah, no, he actually sang at my cousin's wedding when we were there. And like, I don't have any videos of it, but I'm sure someone else does in the family. My cousin also showed me a photo of him, but I didn't save it. But he had like a giant afro and everything. And when Just the Way You Are came out, I was like grade 7 or 8. My mom was like, that's Bruno. I'm like, no way. Like, no way. So, yeah, ever since then, I've been like in Bruno's shadow somewhat. Everyone in high school called me Bruno because, I don't know.
The look. You got
the look. It's the hair. It's the hair. Sometimes,
the hair.
Sometimes my voice, like sometimes I'll sound like him when I'm singing, and it's kind of scary because it doesn't feel like I'm singing. It just feels like I'm just, yeah, no, it's crazy.
That's such a funny story. One thing I actually wanted to ask you was probably the Silk Sonic album, because that was a big surprise. And when we got Leave the Door Open, it blew everyone's expectations. And obviously, the expectations of the album got heightened. And eventually, when it came out, everyone loved it. Critically acclaimed as for its sound, the musicianship between Anderson .Paak and also Bruno Mars. What was your expectations before the album came out? And since then, like, how much do you love it? How much do you go back to it? And do you think it's Bruno's best album?
I think it is Bruno's best stuff. It's kind of funny because when he was doing 24K, I was doing, that sort of sound. And now that he released Silk Sonic he did the Silk Song thing with Anderson .Paak, I'm kind of doing the same thing. So it's kind of weird how that's working out. But it's when it came out and I was listening to it, at first, like, it had to grow on me. I was like, oh, this is good. And then I kept listening to it. I'm like, oh man, this is really good. And so far, like, it's a banger. It's really good. I think it could be a little bit longer, but that's just me. But of course, I think Bruno had a lot of say in like the songwriting. But nah, man, it's really good. It's really good.
Yeah, I think it's really great. I think it's his best vocally as far as vocals. And yeah, that's Bruno's format as far as the 9 songs per album. That's like, he copied that like a Michael Jackson format, just sticking to 9 songs. Because obviously with such an album, you wish there was more material. You wish there was like a deluxe edition. But who knows? I'm pretty sure maybe they'll release another album, maybe 2 or 3 years from now. But yeah, amazing effort by Bruno.
Yeah, no, I hope so. I think he's a genius because like he'll release 9 songs. It kind of makes you want more, so you have to re-listen to it over and over again. I guess that's how he gets you. Just puts a little taste of what's coming.
I actually remember when Bruno Mars was the biggest thing, because I remember I think it was 2011 when like the song when he like started popping. Like he was like one of the biggest artists, if not the biggest artist at that time in the world, where everybody was listening to his songs. Like he was collabing with Eminem, and obviously with Lil Wayne and all these other artists. And his voice is like, regardless if you don't like him or you do, you can't deny his voice is amazing. Like he obviously opened up so many different avenues for like certain artists in that sound to begin with. Because at that point you were like, who is this person that's like singing with all these different melodics? And yeah, I think he's definitely, I'm not sure if he still gets the same appreciation he still does this today, because I haven't really kept up with his career as much. But There are certain songs that I still listen to because obviously they're nostalgic and like they remind me of good times. But yeah, he's actually an amazing artist. And I don't think one day if Mark and Bruno Mars made a song, it's going #1. I'm saying it. You can go back to this episode and say, yo, Osama called it.
Yeah, no, I got you. That's the dream right there. That's the dream. That's what I'm going for.
Are there any other artists that you want to collab with within Toronto that you're looking at and you're like, I want to make a song with them?
Not really. Like, not really. I mean, like, it'd be nice to, but when I was working at Best Buy in the Eaton Center, there was like so many artists there, and they kind of all do the same thing. Not to say that's a bad thing, like that, that's them. But it's not what I envision a collaborative effort would be, if that makes sense. Like, if I was to collab, then I'd probably want them on something like that. And that's why I always ask, like, before I get in touch with someone, I'm like, hey, would you be able to, like, do something over this type of track? It's, the Silk Sonic vibe. And I don't know. I'm like really peculiar with it. So I guess maybe it's something I have to work on too, and just not being so picky. But yeah, but at the end of the day, I'm on it as well. So I want it to be, good and something that I want to release. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's anything wrong with that. Like, especially one thing, like, it's your sound. So if you have your sound and also you have an idea where you want to take it, by all means, you have the right to do that. So obviously, if you meet an artist that's able to meet that standard, then obviously it's going to be a beautiful opportunity. And like the fact that you said that if you had a chance to collaborate with another artist, whether locally or globally, and you could kind of do like the Silk Sonic thing, my question would be, with the Silk Sonic album, obviously it's like majority 70s as far as the influences and the sound and the structure. If you had the chance to do like a collaboration with any artist, locally or globally, what era would it be? Would it be like the 70s? Would it be like the 80s, 90s, 60s? What do you think?
When I produce, I kind of gravitate towards the 80s to 2000s, like the old school R&B, which is something that's missing. Like, I want to bring that stuff back, because nowadays R&B is kind of oversaturated with, like, the trap hi-hats, trap drums, and all that stuff. And it's good, but the tracks that I'll gravitate towards are like the old school stuff, and that's what I think should be brought back. So that's probably what I would do in terms of like setting the vibe, because everyone loves that. Right? Everyone just loves that type of vibe, and it's something that should be should be back.
Do you think, I guess, like you said, obviously, like, that time and that sound was obviously incredible, and you do hear it sometimes if someone would do like a throwback track, but either way, there's certain artists like Bruno, for example, with 24K Magic, that had some tracks obviously diluted of that late 80s, early 90s New Jack Swing. And I guess the most famous person out of all is The Weeknd, obviously, who does like majority 80s, whether it's new wave or synth pop and stuff. And even Tory Lanez recently with his album Hello at Prom, trying to attempt an 80s sound. I guess my question to you was, if it's in the 80s, would it be like early 80s as far as the disco or boogie era, or like new wave or synth pop? Or would it be like kind of like New Jack Swing as far as the late 80s? Like, what kind of genre would it be?
I think it'd be more of the disco stuff. That's what, like, the funky guitar, because that's what I'm kind of really into right now. Yeah, just bringing like good vibes and like dance. Definitely the disco stuff. There might be a little bit of like synth pop in there, because that's sort of like my little touch when I produce. Yeah, so I'll probably just dip my toes in every little era within that era.
I think another quick question is, it's very hard because obviously artists will try to do a sound that they're influenced by, but modern critics will criticize them and be like, hey, like, the sound's not original because you're borrowing from the past. So one thing that Bruno and The Weeknd does really well is able to use those elements and those influences, but still keep a modern sound at the same time, kind of make it fresh and original. How hard is that in the beginning as an artist, learning to songwrite, produce, and doing it all by yourself, as opposed to them? Obviously, they're more established. They have the creators around them, songwriters that can reach out to different producers, so they're able to hone in and not lose that originality. As opposed to you're doing it by yourself, so obviously you don't know whether it sounds too unoriginal or too original, but not like easy accessible as far as the influence. How hard is it for you in the beginning process?
I try not to think about that too much because the influences will come like regardless of how I'm producing something, how I'm creating. Sometimes it does get a little tough because I'll listen back and I'll be like I'll reference the track that I'm trying to I guess get the vibe from and it kind of sounds the same, but it's different. It's almost like a little side road to that road that I'm trying to follow. But yeah, for me it's not that difficult. It's not that hard to really hone in on the influence and kind of just make it my own. I don't really think about I'm ripping off someone else or I'm taking from them. I don't really think about that. I kind of just I get caught up in the whole story aspect of what I'm trying to do, like what I said earlier. So yeah, when it comes to making stuff like that, I don't really think about that. I don't think I've ever really thought about that. Which it's a good question. Maybe I'll think about it some more when I'm like producing, but it's never really bothered me to the point of like scratching something completely because it sounds way too similar or I'm just ripping off someone else.
And as far as like ideas, once again, like there's different kind of artists. Like different artists will have their own sound and kind of stick through it throughout their whole career. Or some artists really want to create eras. So every album is totally different as far as the sound, the sonics, the look, as far as themselves and what they wear and the videos and stuff. Are you kind of like an artist that's pretty much I have my own sound, I just want to kind of build it and master it, or I want to create different eras and different kind of themes with every single album so it doesn't sound the same? Like where do you fall on the line between that?
That's a good question. I actually had notes for different EPs that I had, different stories, and they were all going to sound different from each other. I think I'm still going to stick with that just because I find it interesting and it's always nice to switch it up. But at the same time, I don't really want to, if I have to force myself to do that, then I'm probably not going to. But as of right now, yeah, like I'm probably going to switch up the sound from project to project just because I'm just taking influences from everywhere. Or like this is kind of influence from this project here, and then this one is from like Silk Sonic, that sort of thing. Yeah, as of right now, I'm probably going to stick to just every project that I have is going to be different from each other, which I think is also nice because it's just like another book to read or another movie to watch or another series. So that's how I look at it. Yeah, I'm definitely going to just have them different from each other.
Osama, you know, it's something that's pretty funny that we've never done before on the podcast. It just popped into my head right now.
What's up?
I was thinking about the Waze formula, and obviously we never like really illustrated this, but it's like if you could take like the Waze formula and take like, I don't know, either all of it or like two parts of it and ask him how does he apply it into his work, I think that'd be kind of cool. What do you think?
I think you can ask him. Let's do it. Well,
I guess you could pick any letter that you want.
Okay,
I guess
so
we should explain it first.
Let's explain to everybody and to you and to everybody else what the Waze formula is. So basically, we just give a backstory. We went to a speaking engagement where we were speaking to like an organization and like the kids that are there, right? Because what they specify is developing these youth from 14 to 24 years old. So in the presentation, me and Muhammad were like, I don't want to say we were struggling, but we were trying to find something that we resonated with that helped us a lot, that allowed us and helped us to get to where we are today, obviously, and going forward. So I started working. I'm like, you know what? Our company is called Waze. So I'm just like, let me work with the letters that I have. So basically, the W starts with what's your purpose. A is basically your attitude / anticipating roadblocks. Y is you versus you. S is starting and your dreams and desires. And then we basically added two key components, which are C and D, which are basically consistency and being disciplined, right? So I guess where Muhammad's trying to come out is like, what do you like with those letters, right, that I just mentioned? Like what was your purpose from the beginning to sing? Like what made you want to start? And I guess how did you allow yourself to continue, be consistent, positive attitude no matter what hits you?
So I started singing and why I continue to do it, right?
Yeah, basically. So like, I guess we'll talk about W first. Like, what was your purpose to start singing? Basically, what made you start?
I don't know. I've always been a singer. I guess it was just me, really meeting Bruno, him telling me to keep singing. That's pretty much. If I could sum it up, that's pretty much why I continue to sing.
Have you told people the story, or just like, because this is the first time I'm hearing it?
I've told people this story and they're like, no way, I need to see a photo. I ain't got one yet. Not
I
yet.
believe it, bro. I believe it. Listen, man, I believe you. So my second question, I guess, is attitude and anticipating roadblocks, right? I guess one is how do you go abide by that? Obviously, being a creator, sometimes things don't go your way, right? So how do you stay positive and how do you anticipate roadblocks when you're obviously assessing your goals?
I have to kind of shut like my brain or like the little voice in my head off. There's a lot of self doubt. That is pretty much like the big roadblock for me. Am I good enough? Because like I'm not that big yet. Not that known. Don't have a lot of stuff out. Am I good enough to do this? To make a career out of it? Yeah, I just keep going. It's yeah. I just shut that little voice in my head off and continue to put my head down and work.
So here's my next question. It's gonna be tricky. So obviously for you, we said you versus you, but I think music is kind of different, mind you. So are you someone who looks at your competitor, like at your peers or competitors, or are you someone that look at your old previous work and say, how do you compare yourself? Do you compare yourself you versus you? Or do you look at your competitors and say I'm far ahead? Like how do you like process that?
I used to look at like other artists in the GTA and be like, damn, like before I released music, I used to look at them and be like, these guys have a whole team. They're in the studio all the time. Like, holy cow, how the hell do they do it? Or like, oh, why can't I do that? So that's when I just really just worked on that, producing all that for 5 years. Now I look at it as a you versus you. And you know me, I go to the gym quite a lot, I work out a lot. So that really helps. That really helps me kind of put myself in a you versus you situation like every day. That's how I look at it, especially now once that I've released music. I'm always wanting to top that. So yeah, now it's a you versus you. Before it was, me versus another guy in the GTA, but yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I think music is definitely different. Sometimes it's not easy not to compare yourself to other artists. Obviously, music's so subjective that if you don't compare yourself, people might be comparing you, right? So I think it's hard to get. I think with the creator, mind you, if you're able to find a formula where you get out of that, I think it's different. I think you're like ahead of the game, and I think obviously speaking, you're always like people like I think third party people always compare you. And I think that's why I say you got to compare yourself to yourself because you're your biggest critic. Like for me, people always find it weird when I say this. Like I don't listen to any of the podcasts that I record because as I'm recording or talking to you or talking to anybody else, I'm actually assessing myself as I'm speaking. Or I know most doing the same thing. Like the only time we actually well now we don't do it no more because I want to shout out to DJ Nazi because she's taking care of our editing podcast. But before when I was editing, unless something went wrong, is when I would go back and listen to it. But I don't listen to none of the podcasts because I'm so tuned into listening to you and your answers and your vision that I'm like I don't want to go back and listen to it because I'm getting a live appearance at the moment.
Yeah. Being present. That's really key. Being present.
So you know what? We spoke so much about I know we don't have that much time left, but I wanna ask you like one last question for myself. So for you, let's say hypothetically you write music based off your experience and based on things that you went through, right? Whether they're bad or good. Do you feel like you also relive those experiences as you're writing them down, or if you already write them down and you're singing them into like you're saying them for real now? Singing those lyrics that actually happened to you is important to send a lesson to certain people, even though it may be hard for you to relive that experience?
No, when I'm recording them, I literally I literally transport to that memory, and I'm like in it when I'm singing the lyrics. So I'm trying to really, even the way I deliver the line, the way my tone is, how I'm singing it, the way the melody is, it is all connected, and it's all connected through me. And I pretty much just go back to that little moment for that little line or verse or whatever, and I'm fully in there.
Actually, that makes me wonder because just like an actor, obviously if you're delivering like a powerful scene, you're not trying to figure out a memory to help trigger that reaction so you can drive that performance. So whether you can make yourself more angry, make yourself more sad, or even cry in a scene. So it's kind of similar, like you said, to obviously music. Like if you're singing, you're going to drive out that emotion and bring it out. Has there ever been an experience while you're singing and it might be a particular lyric or experience and it kind of caused you to react in such a way you didn't know? Like, I don't know, maybe you cried or maybe just like stopped the track and walked out of the studio, or like, has that ever happened like while singing?
No, not yet. Not yet. I don't think I've gotten that deep in my feelings yet. Um, May it could happen. trying to think.
Because think about Silk Sonic, the song "Put on a Smile," like that performance.
Oh man, that's my favorite one.
That performance. I'm thinking like, what did Bruno tell himself while singing that song? That's a song you can't just sing. Like you need to figure out a way to get that emotion out, especially at the end when he's giving it his all. So I'm thinking for a person like you, the exact same thing. Like let's say you're given the opportunity to record "Put on a Smile." How are you going to record that song? Because you know you can't just sing it. You have to bring it. So you have to have something in you that's going to release those memories and that desire and that fire. So obviously the audience can relate and then talk about forever, which is obviously the goal, right?
Yeah, no, I would definitely, I would have to separate that song in like days, weeks, just to like, yeah, no, that song is crazy. It's crazy emotional, puts me on my feelings all the time. But yeah, no, I would have to really just separate it into weeks, and I'd probably think about the same thing.
Really?
I would probably think about the same thing over and over again. Yeah, yeah.
Your process is so unique because because we've interviewed a lot of different musicians on the show, and their process and the way they do things is more like multi-layered and like, I don't know, they want to try different things. But the fact that you said for one song, you're going to separate it for a week, like weeks upon weeks, and just figure out the same thing or contemplate on the same thing. It's so unique because generally wise, it's like I would think that's not the smart thing to do, but at the same time, if that's your process and that's what makes you become who you are and deliver those songs and those melodies, and that's how you get your stuff out, then that's pretty cool. It's such a unique kind of method.
Yeah, I'm like a really deep person, I guess, when it comes to like songwriting and singing. I think it was the last track on the EP, Always Been You. I kind of separated a couple days between recording. Not because it was like very emotional, like the way I sang in the song, it's not that very like, it's not powerful, but the lyrics in them, it's definitely, it hits home. So I think I took like several days between the verses because they were just all super related to me at the time, or not even at the time, like years ago. But it was like a recent memory, so it was still fresh. Um, yeah, yeah, no.
I think my quick last question, I'd love to know, especially for R&B musicians, like when it comes to heartbreak, do you think like when it comes to heartbreak, is it like an easy way as far as like, oh, since heartbreak is such a huge thing in R&B, it's kind of like a cheap stick, like I could just sing it just to sing and get away with it, or it's something like everyone goes through heartbreak, I need to sing it and pretty much bring out my experience, so I cultivate my own lane. Like, do you think heartbreak in R&B is just like one of those things you have to do it whether you like it or not, or like you could do it and just make yourself stand out from everyone else?
I think you can do it, but the way I'm thinking about it, like right now, right as we speak, I'm thinking about it like the little moments, not like the big picture of like breaking up. It's the little things, like maybe, I don't know, maybe you see someone like you're into and they're with someone else. Maybe you're getting like mixed signals from someone. It's that's how I see it. It's not like big picture, she broke my heart, I'm sad. It's more of like it's the little things that make you feel aside from the big photo, if that makes, it's like the little pieces that make up the big photo.
I agree.
And I think
Yeah.
that's what makes R&B heartbreak really relatable. Because it's not just about I'm so sad. It's more about I feel this way at a certain time, so I'm gonna remember that and I'm gonna write about it. And it's kind of, yeah, that's how I think about it.
And I think your answer points that out because there's already been so many songs on the exact same theme, right? And so many different angles and perspective. So I think, like you said, like the small pictures, trying to find out something that no one else is kind of saying about, or a lyric or an idea that no one really talked about, and trying to cultivate a song out of that. It's a huge difference compared to, like you said, the general like "Take Me Back," "I'm Sorry," begging, Keith Sweat,
Yeah.
kind of style.
Crying, singing in the rain on my knees.
Keep singing in the rain on the
Yeah,
knees.
no, that's literally like, even if I go through that like from day to day things and it comes up, I'm gonna remember that. I'm like, I have to write about that. And it's weird because if I'm in my feelings, I try and find a song that relates to that I can just put on repeat so I can feel better. But sometimes there isn't a song about it. So I'm like, I gotta write about it now. No one else has it, so I have to write about it.
That was me yesterday. I was playing The Weeknd All Alone Again from his album After Hours. I was like, something. Mo knows this. Like one event that we did recently, it just like did not sit well with me. So I was just like, bruh, I feel I was that guy. Yeah. Like, you know that meme? It's just like that guy. I don't know. You're under the rain. It's just like that was me, bro. All depressed. But anyways, I want to thank you for coming on, bro. I appreciate you coming on, taking the time to speak with us. I know it's been a long time since we had this conversation, but I'm glad we can finally get you on as the first episode of the new year. So thank you, Mark. We appreciate you. Yeah, man,
no,
bro.
feels good, yo. It's my first podcast, so I appreciate you guys.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Honestly, bro, it's insane because every artist we've had so far, it was their first podcast.
All right, we all gonna remember you. We'll give you a little piece of a trophy.
Yeah.
Yo, listen, but we're gonna remember you. Like next time we have this conversation, hopefully you'll be like somewhere else.
Yeah,
thank you so much for this episode. I really loved everything you said. I think the one thing I took away was just like your process as far as your method, because I think like in the beginning when we talked about the fear versus confidence, whoever's listening to this and like in the exact same spot, there's gonna be someone who probably has the exact same method as you, separate a track for weeks and kind of contemplate on it longer than usual. If they hear you say the exact same things, like, you know what, if he could do it and look where he's at, I know I can for sure. And that's going to grasp them more onto the confidence side. So I think that's a huge lesson that you gave to the audience.
Yeah, no. Actually, one little thing to add to that one, I have to be obsessed with it. Like, I have to be obsessed with the song that I'm releasing. And so that's what makes me really enjoy it.
And yeah, I think that's the difference between an artist that's obviously delivering a track for the sake of wanting to give it to as a memory, opposed to an artist that's just giving the track just for the sake of, you know, $1 on this material item.
$1.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, bro, before we let you go, how about you shout out your accounts, tell people to follow you, tell people where they can find your music at.
All streaming services, social media, it's Mark, Mark Mdoza. I'm on YouTube too, I do covers. Yeah, that's it.
You guys thought we were done? I don't think so. We still gotta wrap it up. Please follow me at Kusa300. Follow my co-host Muhammad at Muhammad.global. Make sure to follow our page at Instagram. Also, make sure to subscribe to all our platforms. We drop every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Thank you. We'll see you next week.